community. So find someone you're sitting near who you may or may not know, introduce yourself to them, and wish them a good Shabbos. And for those who are watching online as well, we will be using our prayer book tonight, so you can follow along with our service in the prayer book as we begin our service with the lighting of our Shabbos candles. And I call upon the mother of the bride for our Ofruf tonight, Julie Feinbaum, as she helps us in lighting the candles. And we give thanks, and as I sat with our preschoolers today, you read that. As I sat with our preschoolers today, I reminded them and gave them all their Shabbos candles that there's traditionally an idea that everyone has their own Shabbos candle because every one of them brings more light into our world. And so as your daughters bring so much light into your life, and we celebrate that tonight as well, so you get the blessing of lighting the candles for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
We continue our service with our call to worship as we rise together. And for those that are following along in our prayer books, on page 20 of our prayer books, and that can also be found online in the services worship section on our homepage. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach. Praise be our God, to whom all praise is due. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Praise be our God, to whom all praise is due, now and forever.
Leolam
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem, arakia kirtzono. Praised are you, our God, ruler of the world, who brings about the evening star. Your wisdom makes the dawn appear. You differentiate the times and seasons of our lives. The stars follow their courses as a sign of a divine creative force in the universe. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. We join together in the italics on page 21. You have created the day and night, even though you cause the day to disappear and you bring on the night. You have developed a separation and distinction, one from the other. We call you ruler of the universe, but you are our living God. May you create understanding among us so that we might never take nature for granted. Praised are you, our Creator, who causes night to fall. As we recite the watchword of our faith, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated.
And thou shalt love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be upon thy heart, shall be upon thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thy eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy heart.
These eternal words have been a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. Faith and choice bring understanding to the soul and sensitivity to the heart. In all times and places, our God has been a part of our lives. Our faith has been our rock and our help. We witnessed God's wonders when we went free from Egypt. When slavery's chains were broken, we witnessed it. May those who have the faith to believe also have the wisdom to be kind. O God, in whom we have all hope, we glorify your name now as our people have praised you throughout history.
מי כמוך פעילים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה. זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה.
And in preparation for the Amidah, we rise together now and take a moment for our own private meditations, either following the words of our prayer books on page 25 or those our hearts might prompt. Please pray silently.
שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei אל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You are holy, and your name is holy. And we sing your praises every day. Praised are you, the holy God. Please be seated.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, לחיים ושלום, מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמיתנו מלכנו לחיים.
Let us lie down in peace, O God, and permit us to wake up in the security of knowing that we are safe and loved. Be a shield around us and keep enemies, disease, violence, homelessness, and hunger far away from those we love. Keep us safe in the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector. You show compassion and mercy when you permit us the experience of seeing the shelter of your peace. Give to your people Israel and the world a time of peace.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
As Israel has preserved the Sabbath, so the Sabbath has preserved Israel. It's an everlasting covenant between God and the children of Israel. A reminder of creation, for in 6 days God created the heavens and the earth. The seventh day God sanctified all life with rest.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך טסים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. טסים
Together we read our prayers of peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands. May the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if I was going to do a guided meditation or just go right to the Ufruf. I was having like these, can I just be honest, like I was going to meditate, but then I just wanted to get right to the Ufruf because I was so excited, and I thought, like, Vitaly just can't contain himself anymore. He's like, when a Jew celebrates, we celebrate not just in the intimacy of our home, we celebrate in our community as well. And so 4 weeks and 1 day before they ascend the stage to go under a chuppah, right? Yeah, 4 weeks and 1 day, am I right? Excellent. It is an honor to call Nicole Horn and Vitaly Mednick to the Bima to ask of God's blessing upon them and their excitement of this next month of their lives. Returning back to the Bima, first time since your bat mitzvah.
We say, Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei, Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors. We thank you for all the blessings that are in our life, but most of all for the gift of love that you have given to Nikki and Vitaly. Love is one of the highest experiences that we as human beings can have, simply because it adds so much dimension to our lives. Give these, your children, a love that may be nurtured through communication and support. Let them open up their lives to each other, and may they grow together as a couple while they celebrate each other's uniqueness as individuals and as a couple. Let them become devoted to each other through care and concern, through giving and sharing. Give them a strength that shall not falter, and an intimacy that leaves no room for reservation.
Nikki and Vitaly, we wish for you much joy, a home that will always be your own. Hope it serves as an island of serenity in your lives and what you create together. No matter what might be thrown your way, that you're able to laugh it off because you're in it together, even if he's not at school on that day and when it happens. You came to school today? Okay. So romantic. But Vitaly, you always have a smile and a laughter about you that brings calm to your bride's side. And Nikki, you always have a passion for living in life and taking on whatever challenge is there in who you are. And we love that you brought your groom to our bima for this moment and to share in it a little bit as you got ready for this day. Our hope as well is that these next 4 weeks are weeks of calm, are weeks of excitement because of the joy you'll be experiencing together, but that you're able to appreciate the moments that you create in this time as well. That each of these days are special and looking forward to what you'll have in that. The next time, in a sense, you'll hold that Kiddush cup will be under the chuppah as you hold it together, celebrating the sweetness of life. And so we ask you to take this together now for the sweetness of this day of Shabbat, for the sweetness of your love that we celebrate now too.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen,
say also Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Bless you, God, ruler of the universe, who's given us life, sustained us, brought us to this moment that you got Nikki back on the bima again, to celebrate this as well with family, with friends, with proud grandparents that share in this moment as well, seeing their joy and seeing this moment in your life. And we all say, Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu
You guys walk down.
lazman
Wait, wait till I write
hazeh.
it. One. Wait till.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu.
And now we need the help of anybody young. Feel free to come and grab some of that chocolate. Now you get to eat it. As much as you can find. You get to take it home. You're welcome, parents.
It's better than Halloween. Every Friday night, you get to come here and just grab chocolate kisses. It's like so good, and it's like just easy loot. And so, Mazel Tov. You know, Shabbat is a time filled with our prayers that we share together, but also a time of community as well. And so, in the midst of our prayers, we think of those in need of healing and strength. And the idea of a Mishaberach prayer is something we connect with ourselves with Torah. And Torah, of course, is a source of our wisdom and knowledge through the years, but also a source that gives us hope. And so, as Shabbat's always a time of study, and we'll talk about our Torah portion a little bit this Shabbat, so is it a time of our prayers. And so we rise together now. As we take the Torah out, we walk around with it, we reach out and touch it, we mention names that we're thinking of in the midst of our prayers, names of our friends, our family, as we gather together and say, Mishaberach, Avotenu Avraham, Yitzhak, v'Yaakov, V'imotenu Srav Kalei Avrachel, Hu Yivarech et Cholim, merciful God, who's blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Leah, and Rachel. Send your blessings to our loved ones who are stricken with illness and anxiety, especially those friends and family we think of at this time. Amy Drysdale, Atler, and Doreen Billett, Michael Brody, Karen Kasman, Patty Seresny, Steve Chadwick, Rick DeRoven, Megan Dox, Michael Eisen, Barbara Esrig, Tim Gaylor, Ann Gautreau, Danielle Goldberg, Robert Goldstein, Patricia Graham, Todd Graham, Barry Grant, Tracy Grasty, Batia Babesha Panina, Ava Haber-Kornholm, Ty Hall, Hank Heiser, Michael Hovey, Carol Kaufman, Alyssa Coltoneau, Karen Coltoneau, Rachel Lannis, Marta Lazar, Henry Leopold, Max McCole, Louis McIntyre, Zoe Marcus, Laureen Majeski, Sean Majeski, Joyce Maza, Teresa Miji, Rachel Bat Arya Leba Pasha, Michelle, Gail Mintz, Lev Herschel, Ben Ami, Linda Newman, Rabbi Robert Nosenchuk, Reza Batla Miriam, Ella Pascal, Melanie Pohl, Eileen Porcelli, Joanne Reed, Eve Ryder, Rachel Mibet Chaim Bechava, Marcy Fisher-Reiners, St. Amman family, Heather Shepperly, Bernard Sklar, Dolores Silverstein, Roberta Sanino, Toby Stein, Susanna Stern, Barbara Storm, Eleanor Smith, Joanne Telerik, all those battling the coronavirus, 32,455 American troops who've been injured in Iraq and the surrounding areas to date, and all the names in our hearts. Baruch atah Rafal Chalim. Bless you, God, to give strength to those in need.
Bless those in need of healing.
continue on page 41 of our prayer books for the adoration.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
The mystics teach us that the Kaddish has different meanings every time it's recited. In their minds, a prayer that links earth to heaven and bridges the chasm between the living and the dead. The Kaddish is assurance the soul is enduring, the human spirit is indestructible. A prayer that permits a child to remember a parent and a parent to remember a child. It's an opportunity to bind wounds and bring generation closer to generation. In light and in darkness, it's all of these and more, so people's memory of the best that life has to offer. This time in our prayers, our thoughts thus turn to those taken from our midst in this past week and month whose Shloshim we mark, friends and family of our congregation. Phyllis Moroff, Maxine Grummett, Susan Brody, Deborah Gabe, Jerome Prescott, Richard Kelly, Gilbert Bott, Paul Alekman, Eugene Dreiker, Alan Schreiber, as well as the 4,586 Americans of our armed forces who have been killed in Iraq and the surrounding areas to date. The 1,070,138 Americans who've lost their lives to the coronavirus. Linking their names and names with yortzites we mark on the Shabbat, those anniversary of passing we lovingly commemorate. Dorothy Altman, Beverly Appel, Eve Arnaud, Harry Bennett, Pauline Berkowitz, Cantor Henry Blank, Ruth Blau, Helen Bluestone, Milton Elford, Arthur Goldberg, Doris Goodman, Cantor David Gutman, Kenneth Iskevitz, Lillian Katz, William Klegman, Pearl Cleef, Cal Lefton, Henry Lewis, Charles Miller, Francis Naines, Nat Ober, Marion Robinson, Bill Rogers, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Gerald Schumacher, Myra Spizeisen, Amelia Steiger, Hope Steinberg, Ronald Urofsky, as well as the 11 members of the Tree of Life Synagogue who lost their lives 4 years ago this week, and those friends and family who we do not mention this time, those of every faith, every people whose lives have touched ours, as well as those who have no one to stand and say Kaddish for them. So do we join together in the immortal words of the mourner's Kaddish as found on page 46 of our prayer books. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirate v'yalmich malchute, b'chayachon of yom echon uchayedecho beit Yisrael, Bagala ubizman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach be'elam mamei amaya. Yit parach v'yish tabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'nadar v'nale v'nalal shemei d'kudisha b'richu. Ve'el min kol bir chata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'aram v'yama v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. The source of peace and peace to those who mourn, comfort to those who are bereaved here and everywhere. And let us say,
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Good Shabbos, everyone.
oh, sorry, I'm just chatting with my friends, catching up. Good Shabbos. I want to have a conversation tonight for a few moments as part of our Tish. When you get to, we always have a Tish at our services when you can ask any question you want about Jewish law or lore. But instead of giving a formal sermon, I sort of want to have a conversation. And Rabbi went to get the computer so those online can join in that as well. But obviously, there's a lot been going on in our world, and a man named Kanye or Ye has brought a lot of attention to us as a people. And it's come up a number of times in our high school class on Sunday night. It was our entire 2-hour conversation with our kids. And obviously, it's something that they were aware of. And Sunday, of course, was when there were people on the highway, over the bridge over the highway in L.A. with signs that said Kanye was right and, giving a Heil Hitler salute too. And then in our Introduction to Judaism class on Wednesday night, there was a young woman in class who's a nurse or a physician assistant, and in the doctor's office, another person working in the office said, I really can't stand Jews. And just not even realize this woman was converting, but just matter of fact. And so part of me is sort of curious, things you've heard, but I wanted to share a few things, because one of the most profound statements I found was from the 3 gentlemen who were made the documentary, spent the past 20 years following Kanye West, and it got shelved on Sunday or Monday. And what they wrote to their staff was quite profound, and why they decided to. And the 3 gentlemen, one is Jewish, one is Christian, and one is Muslim. And they've been working together as a team for a long time. But what they wrote to their staff was, Kanye's a producer and a sampler of music. And last week he sampled and remixed a classic tune that's charted for over 3,000 years. That lie that Jews are evil and conspire to control the world for their own gain. The song was performed a cappella in the time of Pharaoh, Babylon, and Rome. It went acoustic with the Spanish Inquisition and Russia's Pale of Settlement. And Hitler took the song electric. But Kanye's now helped mainstream it in a modern era. Lies are an important part of all discrimination, and this one is no different. When well crafted, they create the illusion that action is just. The bigot is punching up at the victim. It's critical to anti-Semites who must explain why they are attacking a people that comprise less than 0.5% of the world's population. Not a fair fight, numbers-wise. But if Jews are ultra-powerful because of secret evil plots, well, the argument is it must be fair and okay. And they said the silence from leaders and corporations when it comes to Kanye or anti-Semitism in general is dismaying but not surprising. What's new and sad is the fear Jews have about speaking out in their own defense. They go on talking about Israel and about Palestine and about their belief in supporting two states as well, and understanding that in addition. And, for me, the reality is that anti-Semitism is not going away. It's always been a part. I mean, my grandparents left your country, to escape anti-Semitism, and I imagine it's why your family chose to leave for a better horizon in America and a little more freedom as well. But it doesn't end. And it continued for decades after my grandparents left, as many of our families have experienced, and as many experience today. And we may be able to say, well, it's not as bad, which is true, but it doesn't mean we don't respond to it. And the strength we have as individuals and as a community means we have to respond to it. And we have to call it out when we see it and be public about that as well, and not be afraid to do so. What we talked to our high school kids about on Sunday night was the idea of not only being proud of who we are, but recognizing that an attack on any Jew, whether Reform or Orthodox or conservative or ultra-Orthodox, is an attack on us. That we can't let the world separate us and divide us. Unfortunately, we Jews often fight among each other and don't get along. But we can say, oh, they're attacking, those Hasidic Jews in New Jersey, and that's not us. But we shouldn't fool ourselves to think that, because that is us. And that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew, and we understand and appreciate what that means. So that's number one. But number two, the idea of we need to work together as a Jewish community and be aware of that, right? And how important that is in our lives. But also to realize that we should be proud of who we are. And that when, I think it was Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks in Great Britain, who said anti-Semites love Jews who hide their Judaism, love Jews who are embarrassed to be Jewish, but they can't stand Jews who are proud of who they are, right? We celebrate life. We have a simcha. We come to temple to be a part of that and to rejoice in that. We look at our prayers as a way to lift ourselves up and to remember that as well. And to call out what we see as not just inappropriate, but this is where worse things happen over time. So I could go on, and I have more responses, but I'm curious your thoughts and those online. And I just said to Rabbi, this is what we're talking about tonight. Get ready. So who knows what he has to say too. I also have my brother's sermon here tonight that he's giving right about now. My brother, who's a rabbi in New York, I texted him at 5 o'clock and said, hey, send me your sermon tonight about Kanye and anti-Semitism. I had no idea what he was talking about tonight, but I just know my brother. And he goes, I got 20 more minutes and I'll send it to you. I was totally right. I loved it. It's a good sermon too. So anyway, has it been a part of conversations that have come up in your lives, in work, with Jews, with non-Jews?
Joan's got her hand up too on the left.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So for those online who didn't hear Joan's comment, if now that companies have separated themselves from Kanye and have canceled his contracts with them, doesn't it prove what he believes, that look what the power we do have as Jews, and isn't that fulfilling that? One, I don't care, because what's right is not to be in an agreement with someone like that and helping someone like that make money. And so just as I would argue a company should not support and have business with someone who's being racist or Islamophobic or in any way. I mean, that's another thing about anti-Semitism. When someone is treating any minority inappropriately or casting anyone, we Jews should stand up, and we do often, right? And that's important for us. So with that in mind, I agree with you, and that sentiment sort of strikes a nerve, but I still feel like it doesn't mean we shouldn't do that. And we're not going to convince Kanye of anything, right? Bret Stephens in the New York Times had a really good essay that our friend Rabbi Bennett from Temple Israel pointed out to us when we were talking earlier today too. And if you haven't seen it, but he said, I've never met Kanye West. I don't really need to meet him. I'm not going to change his views. I don't care about changing his views. He's talking about something that's thousands of years old, this idea of anti-Semitism, where it comes from. What we have to do is right. And although Adidas took 2 weeks to cancel their contract with Kanye and no longer make these shoes with his name and lose almost immediately $254 million, right, in that, that's a huge loss, I would imagine, for a company of their size, right? They still did it. They still did the right thing ultimately. Now, we could say, oh my God, it took them so long, and they should have done better. In 1939, no companies were canceling their contracts with Germany, right? Adidas or any other company for that matter. So the fact that major corporations are doing that says that they understand anti-Semitism is wrong. And so we need to help that voice come clearer.
The only thing I'll add is the idea of removing a platform for somebody, or speaking out so that other people understand that with the platform that somebody's speaking with, that not everybody supports and agrees with that. And I think one of the benefits of it for this time in this example that we have is it's not just Jews. That there are friends, other communities, other religious groups who have spoken up on behalf of the Jewish community as well, who have reached out and who have supported this in that way. And I think that's an important distinction as well, that as we talk about that anti-Semitic trope of Jews controlling the media, the world, finances, whatever it might be, that it's not just the Jewish community that's responding in this way at this time. And I think that's helpful, and that's the importance of creating these allies and friendships with other communities, and making sure that we're not staying insular and only hanging out with ourselves, and making sure that we commit or that we continue the discussion within our community, but that we're reaching out and making sure that we're supporting others in their time of need, and that they're there for us as well.
Bret Stephens' essay, I cut out a paragraph here of it where he's addressing Kanye. He called his essay "Thank Ye." And he says, honest would be to acknowledge that anti-Semitism is as much a left-wing phenomenon as it is a right-wing one. Honest would be coming to grips with the fact that anti-Semitism infects corners of black politics as much as it infects the politics of white supremacy. Honest would be holding to account people who were complicit in your anti-Semitism, Mr. West, such as Tucker Carlson, who praised your bold beliefs while editing out your anti-Semitic remarks from his interview with you. Honest would be coming to terms with the extent to which anti-Zionism has become the anti-Semitism of our day, echoing the same sort of conspiratorial tropes about Jews as swindlers and imposters. Honest would also be admitting that you speak for more people than many Americans would have cared to admit. For that, but only that, you deserve thanks. So he said, look, this man brought this platform out so we all can recognize it. And that's an important thing to do. The challenge, for us is, and the documentary filmmakers talked about the idea that, what was the way they set it up, that if you support Israel, you're a racist. If you are a Jew, you support Israel. So by the transitive property of equality, then Jews are racist. And that's why we have Jews being attacked in LA at a restaurant where people are screaming at them, Zionist Nazis and crazy things like that, which make no sense, right? And of course that's not true. And that's where they speak out like Israel has a right to exist. Palestine has a right to exist, and we should find a way for that to happen, for both to exist. Being pro-Palestinian doesn't mean I'm anti-Jewish or anti-Israel. And so the idea of Israel and anti-Israel sentiment being the kosher anti-Semitism now, let's be honest, where is it coming from? It's coming from a place of Jew hatred rather than Israel hatred. Thoughts, questions, things that have occurred for silence then. Yes, Bart. Right.
Remember when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and this guy said to me he wasn't Jewish. He had a Jewish slur. I said, "You know I'm Jewish, don't you?" He said, "Yeah, but you're not like the other ones." He said, "Have you ever met the other Jews?" He said, "No." And so
Well, Kanye is not really beloved in the black community right now either, for that matter, right? Wearing White Lives Matter shirts at a fashion show isn't really a way to embrace your own people and get lots of love. So, but I agree. I mean, that it all comes from ignorance. I mean, the idea that the LA, was the Simon Wiesenthal Center invited Kanye to come for, an educational tour, right? And what's happened to them now? They've had a number of attacks on the property and tweets against them, and horrible things that have occurred. But I don't think that's a solution in this kind of case, because he's not one person I need to convince. It's the platform. He has 30 million followers on Twitter, right? Of course, we have no one monitoring Twitter anymore, so what's going to happen there? That's a whole different sermon. So.
Nothing online.
You don't have to say that. You say it's just, they're saying the same things we're saying. Don't admit that there's no one there with us.
Well, the only comment was they can't hear you, so.
Can't hear me?
I'm waiting to hear back who couldn't hear.
Oh, that's odd. Well, then, with that in mind, look, it's an ongoing conversation. And I would say that the most important things are us to be proud of who we are. This is not going away. I mean, those of us who one day will have children, our children will deal with it. Those of us who have children who will be grandparents, our grandchildren will deal with it, right? I mean, this is just a reality of our world. We shouldn't let anti-Semitism define us, right? Let our faith, our Judaism define us. And so I'll end with the Torah portion, as I said before.
Before you end with the Torah portion, then I'll tag on to it or address as well what Bart was sharing, the idea of the challenge of not knowing Jews, and that for many of the anti-Semites, those with prejudice against the Jewish community, it's based out of ignorance. And I think that's part of one of the reasons that we get out into communities as much as possible. And when we're invited to different places, we try not to say no, so that we can get into schools when they're doing introduction to religion classes, so that they can actually meet somebody who's Jewish. That we oftentimes receive requests from family members here at Temple that they're getting ready to celebrate Hanukkah at their schools, and they've been asked as the Jewish representative from their class to come in and teach everybody the dreidel game or teach them about Hanukkah. And we're always happy to give out different things from Temple so that those kids can play dreidel, have a little bit of gelt, whatever it might be, so that they can learn about Judaism in a positive way from somebody who's Jewish as well. And so what I'll share is that for those of you that are here or those that are watching online, know that we're accessible and happy to help in any way that we can as well, because that's one of the ways that we try to combat it as well.
So the story of the Torah portion is, of course, the story of Noah, the most popular story in the Bible, in the Torah, that everyone is familiar with, that we love all the coloring books that we grew up with or that we give to our children, all the things we are familiar. Does anyone know the first thing Noah does when he steps off, God bless you, when he steps off the ark? Yes, Rabbi?
We already drank the Kiddush cup, though.
No,
He plants a vineyard.
Before that. The very first thing he does is he makes an altar and makes a sacrifice to thank God. God doesn't tell him to make an offering. God doesn't tell him to give thanks, but he gives thanks. And so here's a man where the world has been destroyed, but he lived through it. And he's got his family, his wife, his 3 sons, their spouses, and a boatload, literally, of animals. And he paused to give thanks for his breath, his life. And so Judaism says, even in the midst of despair, even in the midst of challenge around us, we still see hope in our world. We still see beauty in our world. That's the command. As difficult as it is, we're able to do that. That's why we say prayers. That's why we say blessings. That's why, if someone dies and we're on a way to a wedding, we go ahead with the wedding. The wedding takes precedence before the funeral. That we are forced to find the joy in our lives and our world. And so the idea of Noah there reminds us, and Noah's, Judaism doesn't exist yet, but that teaching there is that he gives us hope and reminds us that we have to find on even when things like this happen. And that we're blessed to have our community and our strength, and we need to give that to those who don't feel that kind of strength as well. So with that in mind, let us rise together for our concluding prayer. So we ask God's blessing upon us, and we have a special oneg in honor of our bride and groom, Nikki and Vitali, from Julie and Bart Feinbaum and Galina and Vladimir Mednick, in honor of you two. that we get to share a little nosh together. Now, all speaking of noshes, next week's service, my philosophy class is Monday at noon. Continues on, even if you weren't able to make the last class. So, Friday nights are one of our favorite services of the year. Our friend Dan Nichols will be here, our musician, our artist in residence. 6:30 service, all music service with Dan, with Cantor Penny. Always beautiful. And a special oneg afterwards. We called it Nichols and the Nosh, or chords and cocktails. I'll be mixing some special treats for us. My other career as well. Did I do all the announcements?
I'll be mixing two for the 7th and 8th graders that I'm with.
What's that? Oh, Wednesday's the euchre tournament, right?
Yeah, this Wednesday is a euchre tournament. There's still spots available. Should be a great evening, fun social time here at Temple. We'll hope you'll be a part of that. There's some good prizes as well for that.
Something new and different. You give your recha. Oh, yeah. Guided meditation. Nah, it's all good.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm still plugged in. Here we go. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God protect you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God shine upon you, and may God shine through you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always be a part of who we are. As individuals, as a community, giving us all of our hopes, all of our blessings. Most of all, the blessing of shalom, of peace in our heart, in our mind. May we all help bring more peace into our world. Amen.
Vayasem lecha shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Yeah? I remember you knew that for a long time, right?